What I do know is I've never loved anything more. And I think I've been really lucky in the sense that at 3, I knew what I loved, and I knew that it was always going to be a part of my life. And I think that that's definitely a blessing. I don't think everyone gets that. I mean, I've been so obsessed with like music and movement for over 3 decades. Like I love staying young. So it's like I'm active, I'm not a sitter. I don't read, I don't watch TV. I love that it's active. I love that it connects me to youth. I love that I get to be myself on stage. In life, I'm not a particularly sensitive or emotional person. But on stage, I get to be all different kinds of people and all different facets of myself. I love the type of people that the arts attract. Everybody's so open and giving, and some of the people that have the least to give are the most giving, and there isn't anything I don't love about it. There isn't anything. Like the crazy late nights, the whining parents, the stress of a show. Like the truth is like I love everything about it. I love it all. I love everything about my job.
Welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast. In this podcast, you will experience wisdom, advice, and stories from creatives all over the world. Your host is Amani Roberts, who is a DJ, music producer, professor, avid book reader, and developing salsa dancer. On the show, we love to share the stories of creative professionals, especially people who've gone from the corporate life to the creative life. Once again, welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Welcome to episode 48 of the Amani Experience Podcast. For this show, we have Ashley Jones with us. She's a classically trained dancer. Some of my favorite things about my interview with Ashley is just how much she loves dancing. That comes across throughout the entire interview. I love when she shared the story about her first salsa dancing experience. That was a good story, very funny. And then I also really enjoyed how she talked to us about how she's developed her resiliency muscle over time. So I think you're going to love this interview. Thank you very much for Ashley for appearing on the show. Remember, if you want to reach me, you can email me at podcast@amaniexperience.com. Looking forward to sharing the special episode for 50 and 51 we have in store for you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating as well. I really appreciate it. Now, it's time to get to the show. Enjoy it, and to the show we go. Our guest today began dancing at the age of 3 at an after-school session on site at her preschool. After the session ended, she hounded her mom continuously, saying, "When am I going back to ballet?" The real answer was never, but after 6 months of nagging, her mom caved, and the rest, as they say, is history. Trained by Anthony and Terry Sellers of the Houston and Joffrey Ballet, our guest rose to become a principal ballerina with ballet repertory theater, performing in over 500 nutcrackers. Impressive. In addition to ballet, our guest trained extensively in jazz, tap, and contemporary with Original Edge Performing Arts Center founder Keith Clifton. Education being priority number 1 in her house, our guest went on to pursue her bachelor's in business administration and political science at USC, all the while continuing to teach dance, choreograph, and perform. Upon graduation, our guest began a 6-year career in global supply chain and logistics at Northrop Grumman, where she held a government secret clearance. She continued to spend her free nights and weekends teaching, dancing, performing, and creating. After a long stretch of adversity, coupled with being awarded one of Long Beach's 30 under 30 in performing arts, our guest submitted her literal 2-week notice and elected to pursue a career as a professional dancer full-time in 2014. Our guest begins her 18th season as dance educator this fall and is currently pursuing her graduate degree in dance at Cal State University, Long Beach, with the goal of becoming a professor of dance. I like it. Our guest is the founding instructor of Segerstrom Center for the Arts, Dance for Disability School, and continues to study and research adaptive dance. She has founded her own jazz performance program in 2014 and received a Judges Award for Outstanding Choreography at every competition attended this season. She continues to train and dance professionally with 3 dance companies and also works as a freelance artist, having performed on the Hollywood Bowl stage for the first time. Congratulations. I'd like to welcome Ashley Jones to the Amani Experience podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, it has.
So we're happy that you are here with us today. Let's first start. If you were going to summarize yourself in 30 seconds or less, how would you summarize yourself?
Wow. I would say that I'm kind of like everything dance. I'm the dance guru at this point, and it sort of happened unexpectedly. So I'm not just a dancer, just a choreographer, just a teacher. I kind of do all things dance.
All right. Sounds good. And for someone who knew they wanted to dance at age 3 till now, how have you been able to stay with it? Because many times people will start and they'll stop or they get burned out. How have you still been able to continue going strong and continue to progress?
I'm pretty OCD. So there was never like a single second in my life where I wasn't dancing. I never had a season where it left me. I think I was always looking for an activity, an interest, a job, a person to excite me more than dance did, and it just never happened. So I just sort of succumbed to reality and decided to make this a full-time thing. Good.
Now let's kind of go back and start. What was the first maybe dance group you were a part of?
Well, I started at an after-school session, and it was just something that my mom just checked the box, add on for Ashley to do after school, and I loved it. I was like obsessed with it. I was telling my mom exactly how I wanted her to take pictures of me. During the recital, it was like, I was addicted from day one. And then once that ended, I kept asking to go back to ballet. My family they're not an artistic bunch. They're super obsessed with like football and basketball. They're very much sports people. So, they were getting ready to sign me up for soccer and t-ball and whatever else. And I just had no interest. So I asked every single day to the point where it was incredibly annoying, where my mom finally just asked a neighbor where they danced, and I ended up dancing at Orange County Dance Center, and I just got lucky with the caliber of teachers they had there, and I stayed throughout my high school and early college years and was dancing with the Regional Ballet Company, and that was kind of my home, and I still consider it my home and my family, and that was kind of like my major upbringing in dance was through them.
Cool. And right now we're in your home office in Long Beach. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Huntington Beach.
Huntington Beach. So SoCal.
Yes, SoCal born and raised, Surf City. Everyone asks me if I surf. Not really. I can swim. But yes, I've always been a Southern California resident, even for college and
Yes,
and
you've never left. Why leave?
An opportunity would have to be waiting for me.
This is true. All right, so then you went to USC. What made you choose political science and business as your major?
So in high school, my favorite teacher was Larry Hazlitt, and he ran the Model United Nations program. He was a poli-sci instructor, government guy, and I've always been like fairly articulate speaker, and I would win all kinds of awards at MUN, and he was just a really inspiring person and really got me interested in the subject of political science. But he warned me, he's like, when you look at data, it says that the lowest paying major that you could possibly major in college is political science. So I went to pursue poli-sci, but I also pursued business because I didn't want to be broke. And, Marshall is one of the best schools you can get into out there. So I did the business because I was always kind of an academic and a school person. I'm really good at math and writing, and business is a lot of that. But poli-sci was more of like a personal passion and something I had interest in. I thought I would maybe go to law school after. That didn't happen.
Yeah. Not yet. You never know what the future holds.
True, but probably not.
Right. So what, was it while you were in school? You were like an assistant manager at Victoria's Secret? Was it right after school?
Oh yes, we have been digging around. So most people that go to USC, they don't work, especially not people that double major. I was working like 30 hours a week in retail all the while. It was really important to me to have my own money and my own independence. I've always been like that. I've been like, don't help me. Even when I was little, like I can do it myself type of person. So I wanted to have freedom for how I wanted to live my life and how I wanted to spend things. And if, you're bound by your parents' expectations, right? Like I want my own clothes. I want to travel. I want to take off for the weekend. And it started as a summer job, and they realized I was kind of a sharp cookie. And then I was kind of assistant managing, and they were willing to be flexible with me. So I would work like 6 to 2:30. I would open and do operations in the morning. And then I would leave to go to school. Yeah, that was a crazy time.
Yeah,
it was a crazy time. A lot of free underwear.
You still had to study as well and
Yes,
do
I
projects
did.
and everything and
Yeah.
dance.
Yes, still dancing. Group projects were tricky. I really can't tell you how I managed all that. I just know that it happened, and it's over now.
Yes, it's over now. Where do you feel your strong work ethic comes from?
Oh, it's, work ethic is a big deal in our house. My dad has been working since he was 7. He grew up in a tiny town called Gibsonville, North Carolina. It resembles like Mayberry in the Andy Griffith Show.
Right.
There's like one town sheriff. I'm pretty sure that their town sheriff was also a drunk. And just, not a lot of economy, not a lot of resources. If your plumbing goes to shit, the plumber's 50 miles away, and you probably can't afford to pay him to come. So everyone is very resourceful, very community minded, and you figure that you need to figure it out pretty quickly with what you need to do. So working and providing for your family, providing for yourself, being responsible was very important. And then my mom was raised by a single mother with 3 kids. My grandma had them at, I think, 15, 17, 18, and their dad just completely disappeared. And so my grandma was always working full-time, putting clothes on layaway. So the culture in our family for a long time has been like, no excuses, make it work. And so even though, my parents paid for my education and we lived a fairly, privileged life, as soon as school was over, they were like, you got to get your own, because this is not a free ride. Life is not free, and we've raised our kids to be responsible. So they really were heavy on the education and the working in our house, all 3 of us, my brother, my sister, and I.
Upon graduation, you went and you started with Northrop. Talk to us about your experience working at Northrop and how it started and what made you or motivated you to kind of venture out on your own once that was over.
So Northrop Grumman. So a little history on that. So my grandmother actually worked for Northrop Grumman. It was one of the first jobs she got. She was a master mechanic. She's really good with her hands, was a professional pianist prior. And then when my mom graduated high school, she was also really good with her hands, like 140 words per minute, I think. So She got hired as a typist at Northrop, and then eventually like grew her career there. So when I graduated from USC, it was the peak of the recession. People were losing their homes. We know the story. So I could not find a job. I must have gone on like 100 interviews, applied for 500 positions. I wanted something in city government. There were like hiring freezes everywhere. So finally, after like 9 months of searching, I just caved. And my parents were like, they're hiring a bunch of new college hires in the procurement department. Are you interested? Not really, but I need a job. So I ended up getting hired there. There's a lot of nepotism in that company. So everybody there is like someone's kid. And like I'm a hard worker. I feel like I'm smart. And so I did well there, and I like kind of worked my way through, and and got promoted, and I was fairly well liked by early management. But then as kind of I changed and different things started happening in my life, I got a lot of attention, and not for the right reasons. I physically changed a lot in my late 20s. I was chronically single. There were always rumors about who I was dating, where I was going when it was really to like another building for a meeting, if I was seen eating lunch with somebody, what was going on there. And then eventually somebody became like so jealous of whatever it was I was doing and accused me of having an affair with my 60-year-old boss. I had never shaken this man's hand, been in a one-on-one meeting with him. It was completely like fabricated out of nowhere. And kind of just the problem started from there. It changed the dynamic of the work environment. I didn't feel safe. There were more accusations that followed, like frauding my time, violating company computer policy for sending colleagues and friends a notification about a performance I was doing. It was like everywhere I turned around, there was a problem, and I kept chronically ending up in HR's office. But then when they would research what happened, they were like, yeah, this is clearly unfounded. And so, that kind of began the tipping point of me pursuing my passion. But it was a fine 6 years. I can thank them for the down payment on my home. And I learned, lots of things that I still use in my own personal business now.
Give us an example of some things you learned at Northrop that you still use in your business currently.
Contracts,
yes.
Invoices.
Yes.
How to respond appropriately.
Yeah.
Aerospace is very fast paced. They have this thing called the aerospace death curve, where if you don't retire by, I think it's 60, 61, 62, there's a time, you die within like a year of retiring. It's like statistically proven people collect like 8 paychecks or something. So the pace of that environment is very fast. And when you work for yourself and, you're managing different clients and different things, you have to be quick. You need to respond quickly or you lose work. You may be dealing with music and lighting and performing yourself. Like multitasking is still a big part of what I do. And being in procurement, you deal with a ton of people. So I'd be dealing with the supplier, the engineer who created the part, your management, your team. So I have to deal with a lot of different types of people. And Northrop was a big contributor in how to do that as well.
What was it about the time period you were in when you left Northrop that really motivated you to say, this is time for me to go out my own and really pursue dance full time? Why did you make that decision at that time?
Well, honestly, it had a lot to do with bad experiences. So, a year before that, I had gone through a really bad breakup, and not in the sense that the person was bad, but ultimately that relationship ended because my dad was against the race of the person that I was dating and refused to meet him. It created like a lot of issues, both personally and professionally, because the person I was dating at the time also worked at Northrop. Ultimately, upon sharing that information with him, he broke up with me. So I now had this broken relationship with the person that I thought was going to be the guy. And then I had this broken relationship with my family. And normally when you go through a breakup, right, your friends and your family are kind of there to support you. Or maybe if you're having family issues and you have like a romantic relationship, like they're there to support you. I got neither. So I was left like very alone. And then it was, people at work didn't know what was going on. They didn't even know I dated this person until like 6 months to a year after it had ended. But it was shortly after that, like all these accusations started coming. And so I literally was sad for a year. And I remember it was gosh, I think December 23rd, 2013. There's a date for you. It was like our last day at work before shutdown. And I just was like, you know what? Like, I don't want to be sad anymore. Like, it was just a mental decision. Like, I am choosing that I'm not going to be sad anymore. And so I called up the studio owner, who I was working for part-time, and I said, how many hours do you think you can give me next fall? I'm quitting. I've had enough. And, you know, it was the right decision. I had 6 months to plan my way out. And during that continued 6 months in 2014, I was still getting all kinds of, like, you know, problems at work. And, you know, sometimes I think when you don't make the right decision in life, the right decision is made for you.
Very true.
And I think this was a long time coming. I think I've always been really good at this, and I've always really loved it. And I've given every ounce of my personal time to my students and performance and study. And so I'm actually really grateful for all of those people that treated me poorly and had all of those negative things to say and those false seeds to plant, because it really pushed me out the door. And they're still sitting in that cubicle dealing with whatever, right? And I have the freedom to explore and create and do what I love. So, yeah, there was no like one reason. It was just like a season of bad and, you know, a decision that I'm done. So
as a follow-up, maybe you could explain to us how you came up with the concept of the 3-act abridged ballet set to Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And that's kind of a good follow-up to that story.
Yeah, so Ballet Kanye, wow. I was really fortunate to be exposed to this dance company, LA Unbound, who I was a part of until this year, actually. And LA Unbound is so great. If you're somebody that maybe you were really heavy into dance and now you work in the corporate world and you still want to dance and still want to perform, they are the company for you. And so I was introduced to them by a friend, Allison Mobley, who I grew up dancing with at Orange County Dance Center. She like wanted to do a Nutcracker, heard of them. I saw she did Nutcracker and I'm like, oh, I love Nutcracker. She's like, you should totally check them out. So they don't give you any kind of restrictions in your choreography or anything else. A lot of times when you're involved in things you want to choreograph, they want to see previous work. They want to see, you know, XYZ, right? So you have complete freedom when you work with LA Unbound. So I finally got up the guts to choreograph and not just perform. And I did a tap piece and everybody loved it. They were like, wow, you're really good at this. And I'm like, okay. And so then I wanted to do a ballet piece, and I'm super into Kanye West. I love everything about him. I know that a lot of people hate on him and think he's just crazy, but so much of his life like parallels with mine, like getting in a severe accident, like, you know, dropping out of college to pursue what he wanted to do. Like I relate to him, and I love that he's not afraid to be provocative and is a little bit avant-garde. So I love his music. That's one. And then he also did a music video for Runaway where it's all ballerinas, right? And so that kind of inspired it. Just the artwork from that album was part of it. And also I felt like I had a story to tell, you know? Like I had this really crazy thing where it's like, this is not a normal breakup. This is not a normal situation. And I also had access to great dancers. My friends Felicia and Juan, I love the way they partnered together, and they were really able to like tell what I wanted to tell. So the 3-act ballet was definitely about, you know, interracial relationships and how that didn't work out for me and the loss and the experience of that. But, you know, it was also, like, a great opportunity to choreograph set work, be a part of LA Unbound, like, and use music from an artist that I really love.
Yeah.
So
great story. Favorite Kanye song?
Ooh, I really
You can give me a top
Fade.
3.
I really love Fade. I really do. Power's great.
Okay.
Power's great. And anything from College Dropout album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything.
Through the Wire is my favorite.
Yes.
I love the
Shaka
sample.
Khan.
I love the sample he did. So
Yes.
feeling that. So that's good. Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Great story. Now, what do you think, based on your experience, my experience, what do you think is important for creative professionals, such as yourself or myself? What's important for us to succeed in today's business environment?
You need to be flexible, like incredibly flexible. So when I quit, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna teach as many classes as I can, right? I didn't think that I'd be teaching special needs dance. I didn't think that I would be traveling nationally judging. Like these are like jobs essentially, or categories in my field that I didn't even really know existed. So being open, don't be so crazy set on, I need to be this dancer at this company, or I need to be in this role at this studio, or I have to book this client. Like, be flexible, be open. You need to work your tail off. Because if you're not doing it, somebody else is. I mean, anyone who knows me will tell you, like, they don't know anybody who works harder. And I don't say that in an arrogant way. I say it as the truth. You know, I have people that I've danced with recently that are just like, you just have an incredible capacity and to work, and you have an incredible joy for dance. And so you need to have those things with whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're not good with numbers, you need to find somebody who is. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, I'm not trying to be a starving artist. And I hope that, I don't think anybody is, but you need to set aside time to manage your business. And then, you know, there's always networking. You know, a lot of people on the show have talked about that. And being involved with people that are not in your field. I would say that's like one of my secrets. And again, that's being flexible, being open, right? Yeah, you're going to know a lot of dancers. It's what you do. But do you know people? I mean, I know people on city council that I work with, and people through leadership, people at Northrop, people that are just interested in arts, that are engineers. You know, they're involved with STEAM, right? So you need to be involved and be open to being around different types of people, and not being just hanging around with a bunch of the same.
Yeah. You know DJs too. You know
yeah,
DJ too.
And a DJ, right? You can cut, edit, fix all your music.
I concur. You work very hard, so keep that up. Many people struggle to be flexible. What tips or advice would you have for people who are struggling being flexible? Like they're stuck on that one, you know, dance show, that one client. What advice would you have for them?
You know, I was pretty focused on what I wanted. I mean, I'm a fairly focused person, and like I try to keep a lot of control in my life. I would say like something simple, like try another type of class. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But just to not try things is just not smart, you know, because a lot of times you just don't know. And this sounds kind of strange or rhetorical, but you don't know what you don't know.
This is true.
You should be someone that wants to know. So as someone who is an educator, I'm big on, even though I'm teaching, remaining a student. So I'm always learning. I'm always trying to know more. So even though, you know, you may be comfortable in a certain setting, you might be more comfortable in something new. That makes sense. I know, like, we've gone salsa dancing. I was shocked, like, how much I really liked it. Like, I was really nervous.
What happened to part 2 of salsa dancing? But we'll talk about that later.
Yes, we'll talk about this another time. But, you know, my comfort zone is, like, dancing by myself, like being a solo artist, right? So I'm like, oh, gosh, partnering, you know, stresses me out. But it was really, really fun. Like, surprisingly, a lot more fun, a lot less stressful than I thought it was going to be. And, you know, according to Amani, like, I could just skip level 1 and go to level 2.
For the record, we went through a variety of steps that would take most beginners at least 2 or 3 months to pick up at the pace that Ashley did. We were out there doing some pretty complex routines in like 30 minutes. I was like, oh my gosh, Ashley is good. Like, wow. So for the record,
I do pick up fast, but I think I was like taking over a lot of the leading.
yes, we need to talk about letting go of control on the dance floor. I know in life you can lead, but on the dance floor, we want to let the male lead. I'm going to make you look good with the spins and the twirls and the hand motions and all that, but you got to let me show you the roadmap.
Room for improvement.
Yes, but the 30 or 40 or whatever time we spent dancing, like you picked up on stuff quickly. I was like, whoa.
It's the Latin blood. I just felt it.
Yeah, well, we need to bring that Latin blood out even more. As you look at your career, when was the turning point in your career so far?
Turning point in what way?
So, in terms of you looked up, you're like, wow, like this is really working, like this is legitimate. I'm full-time dancing, teaching, judging, like there's no turning back.
You know, there's two that kind of stand out, and one is more like one's more tangible and one is more emotional. So I want to say when I hit a year. So I quit on July 25th, 2014. You may like I'm big
We're
on
coming
dates.
up on
I'm
like
big
4
on dates.
years.
You may have noticed. So like my birthday's a big deal. I get made fun of for like making it like a week-long celebration. But
when is your birthday?
February 23rd.
Okay, so everyone knows that, that's Ashley's birthday week.
So July 25th, 2015, when I made it a year and I hadn't had to adjust my life, like it was like the happiest day. I was just so happy that day. Like somebody could have bombed my home and I would have still had a smile on my face because I was just so stoked that, hey, this is like really working out. And I remember calling my mom and I was like, I'm really glad this dance thing worked out. And she was just laughing because, they didn't think it was going to work out either. They were super against all this. But it was just like a very emotional and incredibly joyous day, And then when I was just able to like write a check for my car, like my new car, I was like, this is great. Like I'm living a good life and I want to like inspire and motivate other people to live a good life and that you can do so like in the arts industry. And I think that is going to be my eventual calling is like dance leadership and like arts management. But that was a great moment too. Like I'm set. This is good. Like I don't have to worry anymore. Like I just need to keep working hard and fulfilling my purpose and like everything's gonna work out. Don't know how, but it will. So those were maybe like two big ones over the last few years.
Since you brought this up, what did your friends and family say when you told them you were leaving the comforts of corporate America and gonna pursue dance full time?
Yeah, so I called my mom on Christmas Eve that year and told her I was quitting, and her first response was, "You're gonna end up homeless." Like it was just an initial reaction. They definitely freaked out. And as a parent, I'm not one yet, but as a parent, I totally understand that because I had no plan, right? I wasn't like, okay, so this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna put this much aside, and I have this job offer lined up. I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm quitting. I'm gonna be a professional dancer at 30. Yeah, okay, who does that? Nobody, right? Like your career is supposed to be over at 30, right?
You're rewriting the record books.
Yeah, so they were less than pleased with the decision, but at the same time, they know me, and I'm definitely a person that is gonna do what they want to do, and I've always been very confident, especially like in like an intelligence or an academic environment. Like that's I think where my confidence comes from, and so I just was like, you know what, I really don't know how I'm gonna make it work, but I am going to. A lot of my longtime friends were supportive. Like I've had the same group of friends since middle school, so they've seen it all when was like fat and ugly and had no date to senior prom. They were like, oh yeah, like we totally like want you to, this is what you should be doing. This is what you should be doing. So it's easy for them to say that and support you, right? But they also are your friends, and so they're not thinking about it from like a lifestyle situation. So I would say my friends were supportive. My family was not. It was really kind of like this year when my mom was like, I really did not understand what you were doing. But she's like, you're making all the right decisions in life, and I'm so proud of you, and like we couldn't be happier for you. But initially, like there were some difficult conversations that had already followed, like years of difficult conversations, right? So I didn't get a lot of support. It was very like own personal willpower.
Yeah, so props to you for sticking through it. For people that are looking to follow in your footsteps but are afraid because their parents, their friends won't support their decision in terms of taking a risk, what advice would you give them?
Wow. I definitely think it takes a certain type of personality to be an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody. It doesn't mean that you're any less if you work for a company. And if that works for you, that works for you. For me, just in an evaluation process, I look back to even when I was little and I go, okay, I never liked getting up early. I never liked being told what to do. I loved music. I loved dance. I'm good with numbers. So it all kind of made sense. So for some people, it might just not make sense for you because you are going to work more as someone who is self-employed than someone who isn't. Okay, people think like, oh, you get to make your own hours, you get to do whatever you want. No, you don't. Okay, you have to hold yourself accountable. So if you're not somebody that is good at doing that and you need to be coached and motivated or patted on the back, I can't tell you the last time somebody told me good job. I get thank yous from parents, but there are no like raises, bonuses, leadership awards, kudos. All those are not going to come to you. So you have to be a very confident person. And so as far as advice goes, I'm not sure what advice to give you to be confident. You're always going to have excuses. It's never going to be the right time, right? Like my mom kept bringing up, what are you going to do about healthcare? What are you going to do about healthcare? Research it, pay for it, set aside money. I mean, as someone who makes their money doing a physical art, I can't not have health insurance. So I think I'm a slow decision maker. Like I'm not hasty. So by the time I've decided, I've really decided and I've done the research. So if you're teetering on pursuing something, I would say learn and study and research as much as you can about it. Ask people who have done it what they have done. And if they're not willing to share with you how they've done it, then, they're not the person you should be asking. I'm very open. I'm accessible. I'm not unwilling to talk about taboo topics like money, contracts, whatever. I'm open. So I would say like research to the level that you are comfortable and confident with your decision.
Speaking of healthcare, for someone who's been dancing for so long and still very young, but in the dance world, they look at you and say you're old. I don't know if I agree with that.
I'm a senior citizen.
But what do you do to take care of your body? Because that's your work. Like your body is your work. So what do you do to kind of take care and make sure you stay healthy?
Yeah, so it's a bitch. I have to work hard. I'm not a small person. And especially as someone who's primarily a ballet dancer, like I'm like obese, in that world. So it's a lot of effort. I eat primarily vegetarian. I do at least an hour of cardio, like 4 to 5 days a week. I study Pilates. I do resistance training. I mean, I'm active. I also go to the chiropractor and get a massage, like I'd say every 3 weeks.
Nice.
I'm always asking other dancers like what they're doing. I've been very lucky to have no injuries due to dance up at this point. No like stress fractures, like tendonitis, arthritis, anything like that. So I make my health a priority. I carve out time every day for me to do something physical. And then of course, like taking ballet and other classes. I manage it. I have to manage my weight, my fitness, my health.
Speaking of Pilates, you're also, how do you pronounce it? Basi Pilates certified?
Basi, that's correct.
Certified. How does that benefit you and your practice?
At first it was something that I did so that I would have another skill set, something to add to my tool belt because Pilates and dance are very aligned. It's not a lot of actual like weight bearing, like something like CrossFit is a little more dangerous for a person like me. And the type of muscles you want are long and lean. So I went through that pretty shortly after I quit Northrop as something to add. And I ended up teaching Pilates for like a year in downtown Long Beach and getting, free classes all the while doing it. But that type of training and practice aligns nicely with the type of study that ballet and contemporary dancers
Interesting.
study.
Very interesting. Why do you love what you do?
Wow, I knew this question was coming, and yet I still don't have I think it's a question I'll never quite have the answer to. What I do know is I've never loved anything more. And I think I've been really lucky in the sense that at 3, I knew what I loved, and I knew that it was always going to be a part of my life. And I think that that's definitely a blessing. I don't think everyone gets that. I mean, I've been so obsessed with music and movement for over 3 decades. I love staying young. So it's I'm active, I'm not a sitter. I don't read, I don't watch TV. I love that it's active. I love that it connects me to youth. I love that I get to be myself on stage. In life, I'm not a particularly sensitive or emotional person. But on stage, I get to be all different kinds of people and all different facets of myself. I love the type of people that the arts attract. Everybody's so open and giving, and some of the people that have the least to give are the most giving, and there isn't anything I don't love about it. There isn't anything. The crazy late nights, the whining parents, the stress of a show. The truth is I love everything about it. I love it all. I love everything about my job.
You have previously described yourself as being deceivingly outgoing introvert. What does that mean?
So people are going to listen to this podcast, right? And they're going to be like, oh, she's upbeat, she's long-winded, she seems like she'd be a good time. You can rarely find me out and about, and if I am, it's usually related to some type of project that I'm doing. I'm very in my head. I'm very pensive. I'm naturally a very shy person. And it's taken me a while to get out of that. And I think sometimes people mistake shyness for arrogance, or, my classes, I hear sometimes, she doesn't smile enough through the window. And it's yes, I'm working, I'm thinking, I'm assessing the body of a student. I'm trying to be helpful. I take dance fairly seriously. It's fun, but I take it seriously. So, I have to have me time. I'm the type of person where if I had a show that weekend, good luck finding me the next week, because I'm really not taking calls. I'm really not responding to emails. I have to reset. I'm not somebody that can be around people and partying and a happy hour. And, that might have contributed to some of the perceptions at Northrop as well. Because my mom, who'd worked there, she's spicy, She'll talk to anybody at any time, all day. And I think people were maybe anticipating that we were going to be of similar personality. And, I'm my dad. Leave us alone with an iced tea. We're good.
Iced tea. I like that. I like that you use the word pensive as well. Good word. What is something that scares you?
I'm a pretty fearless person. I'm not easily intimidated. I've become very comfortable with who I am and who I am not. I've jumped out of planes. I've had major collarbone surgery. I've been chased by a rattlesnake. I mean, I've had some stuff just, out and about. And I'm really not afraid of doing life. And I think a lot of people are so afraid of what may go wrong that they don't do what's right. You know, I've had like a major sever in the relationship with the most important person in my life. And it's like, I'm still standing, living and loving life, doing what I want, and I'm happy with the way things are at, and where I think that they're going. My biggest fear would be not doing what I'm doing right now, like not pursuing my passion. And I think I've heard that on other Amani Experience podcasts, right? But you're talking to a group of like big dreamers, right? So it's like, I have this dream, like no one can stop me. Like my only fear is like not pursuing my dream. But that's, that really is how I feel.
Great answer.
You know?
Simply put. Now, the dance industry is a very crowded space. How do you rise above all the competition and noise and distinguish yourself?
Wow. You know, I think there's not a lot of people that do what I do, right? There's a million people that are better dancers than me. There's probably another million that are better teachers. But my depth and breadth of study in dance is wide and it's deep. And as someone who, you know, I wasn't really good early on. I wasn't like this dance phenomenon. So I went through a big learning curve, which helps me explain things better to students. You know, I like I said, I'm very academic. Like I've studied and researched dance a lot. So, you know, I specialize in a lot of things. So special needs dance is like a new project of mine, and it makes me unique. I've studied Pilates, which is related to dance. I have a lot of leadership experience. I understand how the business side of things works, having not just been a dance major. I have a very wide range of experience. You know, my resume is crazy. I'm very proud of that. And I think that, you know, like I said, I'm not just a dancer. I'm not just a choreographer. I'm not just an instructor. And I'm open to being other things. Like I'm open to being, you know, in any kind of dance position. So I think that finding a niche and just, again, being open to teaching different styles, doing different things, like trying stuff out is what's made me successful.
Now, good answer. How has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, the experience at Northrop kind of covers that, right? So, yeah, that really crappy, you know, year, really, it was a setback is a setup for a comeback. And that really was like my big setback and my big comeback. You know, if I'm looking back to my actual years dancing, I was not cast in a lot of roles because I was a big girl. And it was hurtful at the time, and there were a lot of disappointments. But again, it's one of those things that I'm grateful for looking back, because it made me work that much harder. And all those people that, you know, I was standing in the back line while they were being partnered, like, you know, what are they doing now? Like, they're hanging out at home and doing whatever it is that they're doing, and I'm still in this field and still being extremely successful. So in a way, again, it's another one of those things where what I perceived as like being a letdown and being unfair and not getting what I wanted at the time, like only made me work that much harder and allowed me to see how much more I wanted it. So,
based on your career, you have been extremely resilient. How have you been able to continue to grow that resiliency muscle? Because it's very difficult for people who go through setback after setback to stick with it. Many people quit. How have you been able to remain resilient?
Well, I credit a lot of bouncing back to my coach, Coach Choice. Shout out to her. She is someone that I started seeing after the issues I had in my personal life, and she also was kind of instrumental in getting me to where I need to be. So I had someone in my life that kind of wasn't invested in what the outcomes of my choices were. And so I think having somebody in your life that is that sounding board, that isn't invested in your life, is a great thing. Whether that's, someone at church, whether it's a therapist, it's a life coach, it's whatever, like it's nice to have that. So she was key in my success. And I also got in a crazy accident in Italy, a Vespa accident in Italy, where I destroyed my collarbone. Like you could fit a softball in between the two pieces of it. And Amani's struggling with that image. Maybe we can put the image in the show notes.
If you have a photo, we will add the photo.
So I had to go through like a major surgery where they had to hammer the collarbone back together. Now I have like a plate and 6 screws. And I felt like a normal person 72 hours later. Like I was like, let's do push-ups. So I kind of, even though, we're kind of talking about emotional resilience, I kind of realized like I'm just kind of built to bounce back, like I'm just a durable person and a durable soul. And, that's probably why I'm doing okay in the type of lifestyle that I have. Like if you're really sensitive, you can't handle no, I can't tell you how many times like I haven't gotten the part, like, you're too tall, you're too fat, you're too white, whatever. Like, that comes with this territory. And if you're going to focus on that, then that's what will happen. But, every now and then, those yeses, I'm like, all right, I'm going to focus on who's giving me their time, attention, energy. And I just focus on the yes. Focus on the yes. That's where you're supposed to be. If it's a no, you're not supposed to be there.
So speaking of focusing on the yes, how do you handle your critics? Because as you get more acclaimed and you're in more leadership positions, you get more critics.
I do not give a shit. I don't. And again, that's kind of a personality thing. I'm really not concerned with anybody's feedback other than my clients. So recently I gave people an index card. I have like over 300 students, and I was like, tell me what's going well, tell me what's not. I have like 300 cards where it's like, I love, we think you're great, thank you so much, like I love the way you run your class. I have one card and it says, could you please give my child 2 stamps at the end of class? So to me, like, that's success, Or it's the parent where they told me, my son wasn't going to speak, and then they start speaking because of my class. Like, that's the stuff I care about. My choreographer is telling me, like, you've grown so much. Like, your performance on stage was outstanding. Like, the people who know me and are invested in my life are what matters to me. Somebody who used to work with me at Northrop that sees me in a picture, in a swimsuit and has an opinion about how I'm choosing to promote myself, I do not give a shit. They don't apply to my life. And, really people like that have negative things to say about anybody, like, it makes me curious. Like, what are you doing in your own life? Like, you have time to scroll through whatever it is and make negative comments about what I'm doing. It makes me think they don't have a fulfilling life. Because I can tell you, I'm not looking back, seeing what they're doing and what's on their Instagram and whatever else. So it's not something that worries me in the least. I'm clear on whose feedback matters to me.
Well said. Preach. Now, tell us about the darkest time of your life, how you got through that, and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, we've definitely covered the dark times.
So you can briefly mention it. We can keep it moving, whatever you want.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you that there is an easy way to get through any kind of challenges that you may have in your life. And there's not. I think the key is you have to go through it. You have to go through it. I think a lot of people, they try to go over it, they try to go under it, they try to go around it. And those are the people that end up back in the same cycles, being around the wrong people, making the wrong life decisions, staying stuck in a place. I had no choice but to go through that. I had no choice, right? Like, this person was making their decision about their involvement in my life. This other person was making their decision about their involvement in my life. You know, people were, attacking me from all angles at work. There was nothing I could do about the behavior of those people, right? So those times are occurring in your life for a reason. And even though it may not be clear at that time, like, it's very clear to me now. Like, all of this happened to send me on my way of pursuing my passion. And no one will convince me that that is coincidence or otherwise. Like, that's what that was there for. And it's just something you have to go through. You have to be sad, you have to be angry, you have to be hurt. Whatever's causing that, like, you just need to deal with it.
Now, this next question is kind of a follow-up to this question because I think I know the answer, but who was the most influential person for you growing up?
My dad.
Yes. Tell us why.
My dad is, and probably always will be, the most important person in my life. When I was really little, my parents went to school much older. They wanted to set the standard for education in our house. And so my dad had finished his college degree maybe when I was about 2. And my mom started going after him and finished when I was about 10. So those formative years were spent hanging out with my dad, when your personality is developing and, your lifestyle choices. And so, it's not even a daddy's girl type of thing. I wouldn't describe it like that. Like, my dad's literally my best friend. I spent way more time with my dad. I connect with my dad on a whole nother level. And he's a great person. Like, he's smart, he's funny, like, he's hardworking, like, he served this country. Like, his he's a really great dad and a great husband and a great role model for our family. And even though we don't agree on everything, I know that he is probably the happiest for me. Like, and he also knows that I'm going to do this and I'm going to be successful and he doesn't need to worry about me. He came to all my shows, paid for all those lessons. So I know that he sees value in this, and I know that he loves me, and I am hopeful that, things will progress with him and I. I'm not closing that door. I'm leaving it open, and like he's like, I want somebody like my dad. As much, as we struggle with things, like, whoever I'm going to end up with, like, I want them to have the things that my father has. My mom, great too, working mom, great lady, another important influence in my life. Talk to her every day. And the other people that were the great influences in my life were all educators. So I kind of started putting that together as well. Like, well, everybody that has been a major influence in my life has been an educator. So I think I want to be an educator. So
good.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go back and we're going to talk to 21-year-old Ashley. I believe you were probably downtown LA going to USC, working in Victoria's Secrets. We're going to give 21-year-old Ashley some advice based on what you know now. What would that advice be?
I was certainly not the partier, the boy chaser. I was really focused on school and work, much like I am now. If I had any advice for myself at that time, I would probably say, relax. I wish I would have enjoyed a little bit more of my LA and my USC experience. All that's happening now, but I think that I have a tendency to become hyper-focused on whatever it is that I want. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna find a way to do it. I'm gonna work hard enough to make it happen. And I think that, I missed out on a little bit of some of the traditional college experiences. Can't say I regret it. I'm happy how it's positioned me. But I really think, if I look back The one mistake I made was just not being enough of a college kid, you know?
Understood. What is the one lesson in life that took you the longest to learn?
You teach people how to treat you. It's still a lesson I am working on, and it pisses a lot of people off because I will try to stick to my office hours, or somebody will ask me for something and I have to be like, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that. Or just, letting certain people back into your life that have a track record of not treating you how you should be treated. I think I'm a strong person. I'm a strict person, but I'm also like incredibly caring. And I think that my students and close friends would vouch for that. So my home's very open. I'm very like giving, and you have to be careful as you rise in your career and whatever it is you're doing, because people will take advantage of you and your ability to forgive, be a giving person, be a caring person. And so I think that is still something that I continue to work on, is teaching people both in business and life like how to treat me and what my standards are.
I'm going to reference a quote that you've referenced in the past and get your input and your thoughts on it.
Oh, no.
It's a simple quote. It says, no matter how tall the mountain, it cannot block the sun. What does that mean to you?
Wow. I think that kind of what's been the theme throughout this conversation, right, is that there's no mountain like too tall to climb. Like there's nothing that's going to be thrown in your path that's going to keep you from something that you really want. Now, if you don't really want it, then yeah, you're going to turn around and walk the other way. But if it's something that you really do want, like, nothing really can stop you other than yourself. It's all what you convince yourself is possible, right? And I very much convinced myself that my dance dreams are possible, even to the point of where people are like, yeah, okay, Ashley, like you're crazy. But it's true. Like there's no obstacle that's going to get in your way that can deter you unless you let it.
Every great person has a sentence. What is your sentence? For example, my sentence would be, I love to help people unlock their creativity by teaching them how to DJ. What is your sentence?
Okay, so the truth is I have no sentence, so I must not be a great person.
I disagree. Let's brainstorm together.
Gosh, I would say I'm a dance enthusiast. I'm a lover of dance. I'm a teacher. I'm a choreographer. I'm an educator. I'm an arts advocate. I am all things dance.
I think that's a wonderful sentence. Well done. Didn't even have to help you brainstorm. What is one new habit that you've added to your daily routine in the past year or so that has been most beneficial?
Airplane mode.
I love this. Please share.
That is my new thing. So I again, in teaching people how to treat you, I got into this kind of mode where I was very accessible to everybody, right? They can email you, they can text you, they can DM you. And I was responding to it. And then I was responding to it like while I'm on the treadmill or while I'm running out the door. And I was like, okay, you know what? Like, this needs to stop, because sometimes I'm not even clear in thought when I'm responding in that way. Like, or I can come across very direct, and the email or the response is deemed negative or, not how I want it to come out. So I now, anytime I'm driving, airplane mode. Anytime I'm on the treadmill, airplane mode. Like, I don't even allow messages to come to me because that's my time. It's my time to do my workout, to like zone out and listen to, Power 106 or whatever's going on. And I don't want to be bothered. If it's an emergency, someone's going to get a hold of me. So I really am kind of like monitoring communication. And my accessibility to my different clients, and it's been really nice. I highly recommend it.
That's an excellent habit. Thank you for sharing. I love that. Great. Now, we're big readers, voracious readers here on the Amani Experience podcast. If there was 1, 2, or 3 books that you feel people should stop what they're doing and start to read them right away, what books come to mind?
Okay, so I'm going to start this with I do not read. I can't tell you the last time I finished an entire book. I'm a big proponent of people can tell you a lot of different things, but only you know what's best for you. So I can read all these books and they can say all these things, right? But they're not me. I will tell you a book I am a fan of is The Last Lecture. It's about a professor at Carnegie Mellon who found out he was going to die within the next year of pancreatic cancer. And he gave a last lecture. It talks about kind of how to live your life, and very inspiring book. Again, I love that it comes from like someone in the academic arena. And then my friend, shameless plug, Allison Rose just came out with a children's book called Shoes Off Mommy. It's really nice because it's a modern dance book for kids, and you don't see a lot of that. When I was little, I loved To Kill a Mockingbird. Always a good read. One of the few books I probably actually finished throughout school. Yeah, you definitely want to listen to the other podcasts for the good book recommendations.
The Last Lecture is a strong recommendation. I'm going to include the clip of his actual lecture in the show notes.
Yes, he's Randy Pausch, outstanding man.
Yes, good recommendation, so don't discount yourself there. Now, tell people how they can find you online when you're not in airplane mode. How can they find you?
So Instagram is kind of my number one. So I'm Jones Into Dance. If you want to find me, I post very actively. There's always some performance, some event, some resource that I'm sharing. My website is I'm Ashley Jones. So there's a million of us. So it's ashley-l-jones.com. I'm with 3 different ballet companies. You can find me with Kenneth Walker Dance Project, Nanette Brody Dance Theater, or Contempo Ballet by Jose Costas. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere pretty much except Twitter. So.
All right. Now, before I ask you the final question, one more question. If you were going to pick maybe 2 or 3 musicians that you would love to collaborate with and do a ballet or show with, who would those musicians be? Or you can say if you're at a baseball game and you're coming up to bat, what song's going to play as you walk up to bat?
So can we do both?
You can do both. Talk to us.
Okay. So, I'm an Orange County girl. So Gwen Stefani's always been one of my my role models. I feel like she kind of has it all. Like she's got her kids and her career, and she's like fashionable and always cute. So I really love her more in the No Doubt setting. So I would love to do something cool with No Doubt. I love Monique Powell of Save Ferris. They're a ska band that also Orange County group. I love her, and I love that she's silly, and she's just incredibly talented vocally. And then, wow, I really love Anthony Hamilton.
Yes.
I'm a big R&B's number one for me, probably. I'm a big like baby making music person. So I'd love to collab with him.
The name of my last mixtape is Baby Mixing Music Volume 1, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay,
continue.
Well, maybe that'll be the inspiration for the next piece. I don't know though. It might be a limited audience. And then up to bat song. Gosh. I probably I'm just a girl.
Good choice.
Because I really just am. I'm just a girl. Big girl, little dream, right?
Yes, you are. So, thank you very much for being a guest on the podcast. I know it's been a long time coming. You've been one of our top fans from the beginning, from jump. So thank you. I know it took a while, but I appreciate it. I also respect your hustle, your grind. You're very skilled at what you do. And I think that we're just going to see you continue to ascend. So keep it going. Stay in touch. You're a beast in a great way. So keep it up. We always let our guests leave the show giving any last minute words of wisdom or advice. So I'll say Thank you again very much, and take us home.
I would say, God's gift to you, or whatever your higher power is your talent. And your gift back is how you use that talent. So I would say use your talent, whatever that is. Hone your skills, give back, use your gifts, and don't be afraid of how far your talent may take you, and embrace new opportunities.
There you go. What a podcast debut. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Amani Experience podcast. You can check out the show notes on amaniexperience.com/podcast. Please remember to leave us a review on the platform you are listening on, and share this podcast with anyone who you feel would benefit from listening. See you soon on our next episode.